USL has finally voted. They ratified it. This is official. They will be bringing Pro Rel to U.S. soccer for the first time in history across their 3 leagues, their 3 tiers for the 27-2028 season. This is it. It's official. For 10 years, we've done this show. We've always been talking about Pro Rel. It's about to happen.
Right.
Here's the question. How important is this to soccer in America on a scale of 1 to 10? Just give me a number.
I'm going to say 6.
I'm going to say 9. Okay, your number's lower. So I need you to explain to me why it's a 6.
So you're asking the question of how important is it to American soccer, then
to soccer in America.
Then I'm starting to think about how important is it to the sustainability of soccer in America, to the growth of soccer in America, things like that. And so that's why my number is a little low.
But hold on. What do you mean? The sustainability of soccer and the growth of soccer. You don't think this is a bit of a turbo boost to that?
Pro Rel, I think, is a factor in again, the sustainability and the growth. Yes, but I guess sustainability and growth are 2 different things. So I don't want to really pair those things together.
You can talk about them separately, sure.
MLS has shown that they can sustain themselves, whether you agree with that system or not. And I'm not arguing that that Pro Rel is bad or that Pro Rel is good or anything like that in relation to how important it is for American soccer as a whole. Do I want it? Yes. So I just, in case anybody thinks I'm like being supporting MLS too hard or whatever.
Capitalist pig.
So that's why the importance of it. So the things that my concern, this is really my main concern about it. I've been seeing sort of taking the temperature, and a lot of journalists also kind of feel the same way I feel. It's like, all right, I'll believe it when I see it.
That's first and foremost because we've been talking about this for so long.
We've been promised a lot of things.
Yeah, Rocco Camiso tried to sue so he could do it. Yeah.
So that's one part, but then the other part is my concern is like that there will be now 2 Division 1 soccer leagues, right? There's going to be Division 1, USL
How does
Division
that
1.
hurt the sustainability and or the
I'm not saying it hurts. I'm not really saying that. I'm just thinking it's just not how the other countries do it and how the other leagues work and the other football pyramids work. So I'm just like, this is going to be something new on a global level, that there's going to be, if it's like a Premier League and Super Premier League, and you can choose which one to watch or whatever. That's we're doing that. Let the market decide.
Super Premier League sounds so dope. Like with jetpacks. I get that, and I think the fallacy with what you're saying, which also includes the fallacy of the fear of the owners and the fallacy of the fear of a lot of the fans, is this idea that if one isn't the top, that it dies. And I don't know that's the case. So I had the luxury of going to Louisville for Louisville City versus Indy 11. And what I saw was 2 sustainable clubs that were both talking about stadiums that they wanted to build. Louisville already having theirs with, I can't remember the name. It's like the Mann family, maybe a Lynn family stadium.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. I mean, this thing is gorgeous. 14,000 seats. It's jammed. They basically sell it out for every game. The city's behind it. Everyone knows what Louisville City is. A lot of Cubans living in that city. Cubans typically don't really care about soccer. They all know what it is. They all think it's awesome. Everyone I talked to said it was great. They're surviving in the 2nd division. It's sustainable. I don't know if they make a profit or whatever, but it's sustainable. And I think that's important.
They do not make a profit.
You don't know that.
Most teams don't.
No. Hold on. Hold on. USL makes most of the money that they make is through the gates. And they built a stadium. They're able to pay the players. No one's like in other countries where players don't get paid sometimes. Everyone gets paid.
No, it's not like that. I'm not saying they're broke or that making nothing, but
they have their training center is top notch. Like would be 1st division in any country in any world. They have a separate mirrored system for the women. They're not even forcing them to train in the same spots. Like, all right, you guys go later. You go. Hold on. I'm saying all that to say this. They're not in the top division. They're barely on television. They just got on CBS. And before that, they were on like ESPN3. You had to go find it. They're able to survive there. That would be the punishment of dropping out of the top division, and they've already proven they could survive there. In an argument beyond that is Detroit City FC. And again, these are two clubs that have kind of figured it out. But they're Show Me a Model. They were the first lower division team to make revenues of over $1 million. We're talking about Detroit City. They don't have this team wasn't around for 80 years. They just started not that long ago. Look at what they've been able to build. And they weren't even in the second division for a long time. They were semi-pro. What I'm saying is there's ways to be in those lower divisions and survive. Yes, you'll make money than you will at the top. So there is a loss. There is a danger, right? That parachute payment needs to be sufficient. But you can survive in the lower leagues and make enough money to keep going. The guy from Foursquare, what's his name? I can't remember his name now. When he had Kingston Brigade, he proved, he was showing you on paper, look, it's not easy, but you could break even. Yeah, and he's like, I'm not even doing as much as I can, and I'm breaking even. My suggestion.
Kingston Stockade, not Brigade.
Sorry, Kingston Stockade. Great. Yeah. Sorry about that. Brigade sounds better now that we're thinking about it. Would have been maybe still been around. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it is, by the way. I think he sold it. But I think what this shows is that the fear of you go down to the second division, all of a sudden it's like cobwebs and no one cares about you anymore. Let me explain where I'm going. The reason I gave it a 9 is already I've seen friends of mine, people that we've met in this business that are much higher power players than we'll ever be, already talking about hey, maybe we should start our 4th division team, or maybe we should. I was like, whoa, you guys are already doing this? Bro, you no longer have to walk in and say, all right, we need the facilities of a USL championship team, and we need the revenues and the players and an academy. You don't need that just yet. You can start in the 4th division, and as you go up, and I understand facilities, and certainly
there's going to be standards, obviously,
absolutely.
If you get promoted.
When I was in Spain, we went to Alicante, and Alicante FC or Hercules had beaten Barcelona, and they had a parade. They beat them in the Copa del Rey that year or something, or the year before I got there. They literally had a parade because it was the greatest day in Alicante FC's, whatever, in Alicante's life. And I said, how come they haven't gotten, there's another team, Alicante FC. How come they've stayed low? Nobody cares about it? He's like, no, they've actually gotten promoted a couple times, but they can't promote because they don't have enough, the facilities don't meet the standard of the next division. So there's already a prerequisite set where, okay, if your facilities or whatever the number is, maybe it's the value of the ownership or whatever doesn't hit that, you can't get promoted. You need to work on that next year. Here's payment. You won. Now go work on that, which is, I'm fine with that. What I'm saying is this lays the groundwork for people to now be able to start at the bottom and go up. As a joke, we used to say imagine Cooligans FC rises all the way to the ranks. NYC footy. That's actually a possibility now. You can start something and build something organic, and in 10, 20, 30 years, you could be the next Luton, you could be the next Leicester, you could be those things. That's now a possibility here. You don't have to go out $500 million for San Diego. What was that number going to be? 10 years ago when we started this because New York City got into MLS. They paid $150 million. We used to $100 million for an MLS team. These guys lose $100 million every year. It's $500 million. That idea, if people who really believe MLS is a Ponzi scheme or whatever, and that the only growth they've shown is through acquiring new clubs and they can't keep going, that's done. That now we get to a point where a team can build up through the ranks. This, I think, ushers in a new era. You've got academies. You've got players. Dude, Americans are so filled with so much athletic talent. We've met guys like Mike Gartland who run Pro Sport Management and other agents, and we've seen the Wasserman Group take these kids that from places we would have never guessed, and they end up in Europe, and now all of a sudden these guys are getting on the national team, and men and women. This ushers in that opportunity now for some of these smaller clubs to continue to find talent and continue to develop talent in these smaller cities. I think this is huge.
I'm not as I do think it's huge.
Do you hate America, bro?
Sometimes.
I meant to hit the ego, by the way.
But
by the way, so do I sometimes.
I think is you're looking at it through very rose-colored glasses, and
I think you're looking at it through the opposite of.
But you're also
glasses.
looking. You're speaking about something that we have the system in place already. We see it in Europe, and it doesn't work as beautifully as you are describing. There are lots of negatives that are currently happening. So that
nothing positive comes without a couple negatives.
I'm just saying it's like you
even
saying,
after a blowjob you got to clean up. You know what I mean? There's sometimes there's negatives.
That's what I was thinking. You took the words out of my mouth, Alexis.
And what else? All right, folks. All right.
So I get it. I mean, I wanted to thrive. Yes. Do I wish there wasn't two competing leagues?
Give me a negative. I'm not saying there aren't, but give me one.
Obviously, clubs folding. Clubs are going to fold.
How many clubs have folded? Like, look at Bordeaux. Bordeaux and Bordeaux Girondins, I believe it was called, the one in France.
Right.
They folded? No. They said we're not pro anymore. We're amateur. They can get back to that. Someone could buy them tomorrow.
Yeah, that's not positive. That's a negative. Like,
but what I'm saying is they didn't poof and go away.
All right, yeah, but clubs do fold. I mean, it's not like it's
not that many more American clubs.
But I'm not making
folded.
the argument like I'm an owner who's saying I don't want. I'm just saying you are just talking about every single perfect scenario, and it works out perfectly.
I'm giving you what the possibility could be.
There's
but more American clubs in our system.
There's
going to
be so much failure. There's going to be so many teams that are fans are going to be like, damn, my team folded. And I think it's gonna happen quite a bit.
That's happening now in America at a higher rate than in Europe.
And then right.
So then maybe you just drop down a division and that's the best you can do.
No. I'm not hoping any of that happens. I'm just saying it will, just because it already happens. We already have a model where it already happens.
But what I'm saying is now you don't fold, you go down a division, and maybe that's a bit more sustainable for your club. You stay there.
Yes, you will. Teams will get relegated, and teams will also fold. That's just a reality.
But now without promotion regulation, teams are folding. So I think that argument is moot.
I disagree. I'm just saying that it could be if the infrastructure is not in place, and USL has a lot of responsibility to, again, get a bigger TV contract, and you hope with the interest of promotion relegation
and the World Cup bounce. Now, this is all in an effort to maximize.
I hope it works out.
World Cup bounce.
I'm gonna watch. I hope it works out.
Can I give you another positive?
But it's your show.
Okay. This is a positive for USL's decision. MLS is moving to a fall-spring schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're the only soccer in the summer.
Okay.
Men's soccer in the summer.
Right.
Think about that.
Oh, I'm thinking.
All right. So now, even if you're an MLS fan, you can pick up a USL team. Are you thinking that? You can pick up a USL team to watch and be a part of this. You can maybe go to, if you live near a secondary city, maybe you already have St. Louis. Maybe you're a big St. Louis City SC fan. Maybe you pick up another team near there that's in the USL system as your secondary team. And you're like, you know what? This is what I'm going to do in the summer. I'm going to root for this team.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, you've kind of removed all competition. And by the way, I think all soccer should be played in fall spring schedule. And I know how difficult that is for some of the teams closer to Siberians, winters, Minnesota in particular. I think we can figure out a way to do it. What I'm simply saying is they've sort of, everything got cleared out of the way for them to be able to step forward and be the summer soccer draw outside of these major clubs coming to the U.S. for tours. This could be the major the American soccer draw. And now MLS is in their way.
True. I think there's a lot of possibility of it succeeding, and more than anything, and you can see if you look at the article on The Athletic that Paul Tenero wrote about it, you could just sort of once you see the commentary from people, and people are sort of all over the place. Some people are like, "This is great." Some people are like, "This is dumb. I'm not going to watch this because why would I watch these amateur players or these just
because they don't know what they're talking about."
They don't know, but that
the sentiment's real.
Exactly,
yeah,
and it's like the customer is just they're not even going to tune in. And they're like, this is not MLS, and this is lower quality soccer, so I'm not going to watch it. And that's just something that they're going to have to compete with. But I think all of those
that you would assume that person's already not watching USL, right? And USL is surviving. I don't know about thriving, but they're surviving without them already. I think this brings more people in the door. And let's get to our last point, which is creating a new Division 1 USL. I actually think we should change that question because I think USL now needs to be considered as a whole, right? As a whole, and knowing they're also going to create a Division 1 league that some of these major clubs are going to be able to sort of play in. Do you think this competes with MLS? And I think for this, we should think in a post-World Cup world. Because let's go from 2027 on. Does this compete with MLS?
It does compete with MLS, and I was going to make this point earlier, but it's really just about the players. Are they going to put up the money to get really good players? If they have a competitive first division, it's going to have to mimic the quality of players that MLS has, and that's going to be an owner investment. So I'm curious to see, is USL going to maintain a salary cap? Are they going to do a financial fair play thing? How are they going to attract the talent? Because nobody's going to watch. Promotion and relegation is lovely, but if you don't have talent to showcase that league, nobody's gonna really watch. And outside of the local and regional part of the country that would care about that team, outside of that, so it's just, to me, it's just going to be, are they going to splash the cash to get players? There's a finite amount of talent. Are they going to be able to outcompete MLS to get them there? Is a player going to say, I'd rather go to USL and maybe take less money, or maybe the same amount of money, or should I go to MLS? How is it going to be in the transfer market? Is the MLS team going to be able to move me to a European club? Is the quality of play going to be higher? Am I going to get call-ups? If I pick USL, am I going to get call-ups to the national team? These are all things that are going to take time to develop. But that's as far as competition, that's the first thing. Are they going to be able to attract players over MLS?
I think what you're thinking about is probably step 8. And I think in order to compete with MLS, I don't think you need the quality of the level of European or superstar players or South American superstar players to come to this league. I think what you need is to build a strong enough fan base through the gates. And then after that, a strong enough TV. Because I think the argument can be made that MLS has done, even with these big players, has done nothing to grow or hasn't done enough to grow the television viewership. So I think if you kind of view that as the ceiling, I think USL already stands a chance to match that, to be completely honest with you. I think what you're talking about is can you get beyond that? Can you get beyond what people watch of your international leagues in this country, but Mexican, Premier League, South Americans, can you beat that in this country? I think that comes next. I think USL stands a better chance of being the league with American and Canadian players in it that grow. And then maybe some of those bigger names, maybe it's part through ownership or whatever, that they go and acquire some big names, maybe. But I think for the most part, if they're the league that sells players to Europe, I think they can be just as big as MLS is currently right now. Where MLS will beat them is probably on social media engagement and social media numbers, because they have a guy like Messi and because they have big enough names like a Suarez and a Busquets and players that people are kind of searching for. If Insigne was still in the league, maybe he's someone that draws a couple more eyes. But I think for the most part, I don't think you need to spend on big name players right now in order to win, because I don't think MLS is doing that, and I don't think they're winning. Do you get what I'm saying?
I mean, if we're only talking about MLS and USL.
MLS is the biggest. So can you compete with them? I don't think you need a Messi-like player in order to compete with MLS. Maybe on social media, but not on TV.
I 100% disagree, because people don't. I mean, even now, almost any American, we had Lola Bonta on the show. She was saying, hey, I wish people cared more about the clubs as opposed to the individual players. And this happens in almost every sport. NBA, we tune into the Lakers because LeBron is there and Luka's there, more than specific.
But that's how the world is right now. But I don't think at the level where USL are at, where they're in smaller cities that are building community clubs. I don't think you need the big name player to drop in there in order to beat MLS, other than in social media. I think TV.
That's where I just right there is where I just fundamentally disagree. You need the big name player to compete with MLS, to beat MLS.
I think they've proved. Look, they're a second division, and they did nearly 500,000 viewers for their final on CBS on an app that's not that easy to find, right? Or I think that was on TV. That was on TV. But they did that without any names whatsoever. No one knew the names. Some people didn't even know that were watching. Probably even knew the names of the teams. Look at what they were able to do with that. If all of a sudden you add Division I and a little bit more flair, and everything else grows, I think you can compete directly with what they're doing on TV now in MLS, outside of Messi. And there's only one Messi.
We're all speculating. We work in the sport so directly, and when you casually are walking around and interacting with people, nobody's bringing up USL. I say that respectfully.
How many people are bringing up MLS?
More than even if it's 3 people.
Messi's going to play for what, 2 more years?
Just say, look, I think it can thrive. I think it can succeed. I'm not saying that, but if you again talking about the competition.
And by the way, post World Cup, which is what I said we were thinking. There's no Messi.
The competition is going to be fierce and difficult, and it's not going to be pretty. It's not just going to be, MLS is totally fine with this competing first division. There's gonna be fighting out for players, for TV contracts. It's gonna get brutal. So I want it to succeed, but for it to compete against MLS, which is arguably trying to monopolize soccer, and that's what a lot of people get frustrated by. So it's going to be difficult. But my opinion is they need, I don't want to say they need Messi, but they need a couple big names. If come 2027, the 27-28 season, they're going to need something. Some name. It can't just be.
I don't know. I don't agree.
The teams are here.
I think they're okay not being the top right now, but building towards it. Look, I know we got to run. We got to take a break. We have an interview coming up. Real quick, yes or no? Don't add anything else.
I won't add anything.
Yes or no? Does this make MLS eventually go to Pro Rel?
No.
All right. I think it does.